Yes. Hello, my beautiful friends. We just pressed the Let's Go Live button. We got a bunch of news to unpack today. I'm excited to go through it together. And we can only do that once the tubes have connected themselves all across the fruited plain of the interwebs. And it looks like that has happened, which is tremendous news. That means we can go ahead and get started. So let's do it, shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live, the show that spotlights misconduct involving police, prosecutors, and politicians. My name is Robert Gouveia. I am a criminal defense attorney, and today we're talking about Kamala's terrible VP pick. And I think it's terrible for a slew of reasons, but one of the biggest is that a lot of the Democrats are in cope mode today. They're like, well, he's great, center of the road. He's like from the Midwest and all the stuff. And so we're going to unpack a bunch of it today. We know that Trump is happy about it. We'll see what his reaction was on Truth Social. JD Vance was out talking about this today. We've got reaction from Byron Donalds, Nancy Pelosi, and we're going to learn a lot more about Tim Walz, the gentleman who has been now nominated to join Kamala in the 2024 race. Trump also, they've come out very quickly and released a video torching this dude, saying that he's ultra liberal. He's like a San Francisco style lefty. He wants a bunch of weird stuff for boys in their bathrooms and weird things to put weird places. And so we'll talk about that, but he got destroyed in this new ad. He was also somebody who was demanding that you snitch, you tattletale on your neighbors if they weren't locking down hard enough for you. We remember that. In fact, this whole show was birthed out of that insanity. But this guy was part of the problem, and we're going to see what happened with all of that. Then we've got some DUI records from a long time ago, 1995, because Tim Walz, like balls, got a DUI in 1995. And the question is, why would Kamala hire as her vice presidential nominee a convicted criminal? Anybody want to explain that one over there on the DNC side? Why, oh why, would you hire a convicted criminal to come in and work for you in the Oval Office? You told us what a monstrous thing this was. Well, he's got a criminal conviction, so I guess that means no one cares. We also have the National Guard members who used to work with this guy. Oh my goodness, even before today, back in 2022 and 2018, they went nuclear on this dude, calling him a traitor, traitorous Tim Walz, saying that this guy was the leader of the entire operation. Soon as he gets called into Iraq, he's like, you know, feels like a good time to retire now. And then everybody else beneath him goes to Iraq. You're like, wow, bro, are you serious? Ridiculous. And so we're going to go through all of that. We'll read through the letter. I've got the DUI records. It was a misdemeanor. He pled it down to a reckless driving, but it's still a conviction. It's still a conviction and it's criminal. So the rules are rules. No one's above the law. So we'll talk about that. And we'll talk about how he abandoned his National Guard members like an absolute traitor. And there's this brutal video of everyone else he abandoned actually hops on a plane, goes over to Iraq. You're like, wow. There's footage. It's like, he's like, yeah, so I was next in line, so I'm going to Iraq. And he's just running for Congress. It's going to be brutal. So Kamala done goofed, and we're excited to unpack it all today. We've got documents to read through. We've got letters. We've got DUI files. It's going to be great. And it's great to see everybody. What's up, Lightseeker, Pamela G, Philippa C. We got Ike's Girl in the house. We got our friends. John McGarvey's over there. What's up, Mini Wheat Sergeant? What say Sadie, Warrior Heart? Words is in the house. Grateful to see everybody. Sheena, Janik, Sportsfish over on the Rumbles. What's up, our friend? Snaggletooth on Rumbles over there. Good to see you, Snaggletooth. And so we've got a lot of business to attend to. Now, this morning, we had a great members only stream. If you missed us this morning, we talked a lot about this as it was breaking fresh out of the oven. And so check that out. Become a member. Join us for our members only morning streams, whether you join us on YouTube or on Locals. We'd love to have you join us because we have a great community there. A little smaller, a little bit more intimate streams in the morning. We like to get our bearings straight, make sure our agendas are set for the day, and then we get after it. So come join us, watchingthewatchers.locals.com or on YouTube. Click that join as a membo button, and we'd love to see you on the members only streams. But now, my friends, we've got business to attend to, and we're starting off with, what the heck is going on? Why is this phone on vibration mode? We can't have any vibrations here. We're in the middle of a live stream. All right, so let's get to it. President Trump, very happy with Kamala's terrible vice presidential pick. We're going to see what he said, hear from Byron Donalds and Nancy Pelosi and the rest of them after we learn about who this Tim Walz fella actually is. But Trump is happy with the pick. He came out on True Social right after it happened, 7:52 in the morning, says, "Thank you! Wow! What a great day! What a beautiful way to wake up! You picked the worst candidate that's out there." They had Shapiro, who could have delivered Pennsylvania. They had Mark Kelly, who theoretically could have delivered Arizona. They had Andy Beshear from Kentucky, who isn't totally demented, kind of middle of the road. And so we had some concerns that they were going to pick somebody good, but they didn't. They brought out Tim Walz, rhymes with balls, and he is not that much different than Tim Kaine. Remember him? Only difference is this guy has glasses, that guy doesn't. But basically they're copy and pastes of one another, which means that we're having flashbacks to 2016 when we had Clinton Kaine lose to Trump and that other guy. And it was a good season for us. And so it's feeling like maybe we're going back down memory lane. Now, Trump is so excited by this pick that he also pushed this out on Truth. He says, what are the chances that crooked Joe Biden, the worst president in the history of the United States, whose presidency was unconstitutionally stolen from him by Kamala, which I'm really starting to enjoy, Barack Hussein Obama, crazy Nancy Pelosi, shifty Adam Schiff, crying Chuck Schumer, and others on the lunatic left, crashes the Democrat National Convention and tries to take back the nomination. What are the chances that he takes back the nomination? Beginning with challenging me to another debate. He feels that he made a historically tragic mistake by handing over the U.S. presidency, a coup, to the people in the world that he most hates. And he wants it back now. Well, that is master level trolling there from Trump, really goading the DNC, really goading Biden in particular. He's like, look what you've done. You've now got this guy in? Wow, Joe, what a pathetic loser you are. They're going to wreck your entire legacy. Not even the Republicans are going to do it, but the left is. Wow, you should feel bad. And Joe's like, I'll just run back. I'll take it all back. So it's expert level trolling from the president because I think he's right. It is a terrible decision. Now, I think there's no chance of that happening, okay? The Democrats are not going back to their old guy. We're not in that part of the relationship, okay? They're still in the honeymoon phase. They're not looking to go back with their ex yet. That's not yet. But it could be soon, I guess. Maybe Trump knows something that we don't know. So that's Trump reacting to this. Now, here's what these two knuckleheads, Kamala and Walz, posted over on X. They said, I am proud to announce that I've asked Tim Walz to be my running mate. As governor, coach, leader, veteran, we'll see about that. He's delivered working families. It's great to have him on the team. Now let's get to work. Join us, right? She posts this picture where she's like turning her shoulder to him. It's like, all right, loser, pathetic loser. I guess I'll pick you. Not even going to look at you. Not even going to look at America because she detests us so much. Walz said, it is the honor of a lifetime to join Kamala in this campaign. I'm all in. Thanks for showing us the politics of what's possible. It's been a disaster. Like how many people you can possibly get across a border in a year or in a month? Or how much inflation you can cause in a quarter? It's wild what's possible. It's been brutal. It reminds me of the first day of school. He must have had a bad time. So let's get this done, folks. Join us, right? That's where they're coming from. Now, here are a couple of sound blurbs, little tidbits on who this fella is. Tim Walz was talking about socialism and how it's pretty amazing. It's just like neighborly love. It's like not even a big deal. You know, you just like help your neighbor pick up his mail while he's out of town or something. Boom. You're a socialist. What?
But we can get out there, reach out, make the case. And for one thing, don't ever shy away from our progressive values. One person's socialism is another person's neighborliness. But we can.
Don't ever shy away from our progressive values, which is communism. Progressive, it's just a reframe label for communist. They don't want to say that, so they've just relabeled it as progressive values. One man's socialism is another man's neighborliness. Okay. That's how they're going to define socialism? They're going to dumb it down to neighborliness? Don't let them do that. It's not what they're talking about. They're talking about stealing everything from you under the guise of neighborliness, which is what they're doing already via inflation and taxation. And their regulation and lockdowns and mandates, you jab things into your body. They're stealing from you and they're saying, you're a good person because you're saving the environment. Don't you feel good? No, we don't. So that's Walz. He's a communist socialist. Here are a couple other highlights. This was put together, very nice piece from Kyle Becker over on X. Sorry, Kyle. Kyle N.A. Becker on X says, just in, media buzz is that she's picking Walz, like balls. This is the same guy who replaced the Minnesota flag with a Somali flag. It's now technically the Minnesota flag. I think some people call it Little Somalia or something like that. But here is what that looked like when he did this. He threw out an old flag with tradition and history to it and a story, and he replaced it with some geographic, thing that some stupid committee in Minnesota put together.
All right, ready. Whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah, you made a mistake there, Timmy. Going to replace it with this, which is the Somalia flag, basically. Okay, we looked this up on a members-only stream one time. It's like identical. So, very curious.
There, that's better.
Not really. No, it's not better at all, moron. So here is another part of his highlight reel. Summer of Love. You remember this. We covered it live because we were talking through all of this as it was happening in real time. The fiery but mostly peaceful protest when they torched the 3rd precinct of Minneapolis down to the ground. We're going to learn that he allowed that to happen. Just kind of decided we're not going to defend it anymore. And that was a reprehensible thing to do because it's a police department. But Kamala then wanted to bail those lunatics out. If you're able to chip in now. This tweet is still up, last I checked. To support the Minnesota Freedom Fund to help post bail for those protesting on the ground in Minnesota. It's wild. This is a government prosecutor, as they keep telling us. She's a prosecutor. She doesn't care. She wants to prosecute convicted felons. Not really. She's bailing them out. As long as they're her felons, right? And she's somebody who's got some very nasty clips that are outside the scope of today's video and today's stream, but where she's saying that as a prosecutor, she has the power of the pen to destroy you. And she's mocked people for begging more water. And she's abused exploited prisoners for their labor, keeping them in custody so she can exploit them for their labor. We read through all of it. She's a despicable person. But then when it serves her political ends, when she's trying to angle to be the president, she says, literally release the people who've already been arrested and charged with crimes. That's why they're being held in custody and they have to post bail to get out. She wants them back out on the streets. And this just continues. You can see it was the summer of love, as they told us, as the city and the streets were burned to the ground. Millions of dollars in damages that happened. Let's listen to some of this audio.
She got out of jail, too. A twice-convicted rapist, currently charged with kidnapping and sexual assault, and he walks out, too.
The Freedom Fund raked in donations when it was promoted by many, including now Vice President Kamala Harris.
Sean Michael Tillman shot and killed a passenger on a train platform after reportedly being released from jail 3 weeks prior. All thanks to the Minnesota Freedom Fund.
Good job.
Donovan Boone was charged with breaking into the home of an ex-girlfriend and choking her. Freedom Fund bailed him out for $3,000 cash, and he hasn't shown up for court since.
I often don't even look at a charge specifics when I bail someone out.
The Hennepin County attorney called out the Minnesota Freedom Fund for bailing Mosley out of jail twice previously, even though he was arrested for having a gun in the courthouse.
The Minnesota Freedom Fund, which pays cash bail for low-income criminals, paid Tims's entire $10,000 bail in cash.
11 days later, police found a man bleeding from the head and ears in this alley. Police were able to arrest Tims in connection to this violent assault.
Howard was arrested and charged with second-degree murder. The Minnesota Freedom Fund acknowledged supporting Howard's bail.
Wow. So that's Kamala, who's now going to blame Trump for violence in the streets or something like that. She literally supported a cause that got them out of custody. That was her entire operation. She posted clips about it. And so those are just a couple highlights. We have one other where this guy Walz is saying that he's going to be undermining Kamala's border czar efforts and saying that if you put up a wall, this guy will just invest in a ladder factory so that people can climb over the wall. Get it? This is Tim Walz.
And I think seeing a plan that's out there, talking about it with folks, knowing that he's not going to do anything. He talks about this wall. I always say, let me know how high it is. If it's 25 feet, then I'll invest in the 30-foot ladder factory. That's not how you stop this. And
I'll invest in a 30-foot ladder factory, right? That's what they're interested in. Not actually interested in stopping the illegal immigration that's happening, just interested in not proposing any solutions, blaming the Republicans for it, and riding to victory is their hope. Now, here is some interesting reaction from CNN. Why, oh why, did Shapiro not get selected to be the vice president? Is it because of his religious beliefs? We think so. Here is what Nicholas Fondacaro clipped for us over on X, this fun clip from CNN. You know Van Jones. He says that the party, the Democrats, are kind of anti-Jewish. You're kidding.
Do you think it was a little risky, though, Van, that she didn't go with Shapiro to kind of lock down Pennsylvania? I mean, yes, David Challenger was saying earlier, just because you pick him as your running mate doesn't mean you automatically win Pennsylvania. But I got to think it would have helped just a little bit.
Hey, listen, the conservatives, the right wing, the Republicans, they were chewing their fingernails down to the knuckle because they were afraid of a Josh Shapiro. They were afraid of a Mark Kelly. They're not as afraid of this new governor because they think they can define him. So here's the challenge you've got in this party. And people don't want to talk about it. We got to talk about it. On the one hand, you have a lot of young people who are concerned about Gaza. You have a lot of Muslims and Arabs and others. They have not felt seen by the Biden administration. You start hearing that genocide joke. That was building. And so those folks needed to have a candidate that they could feel comfortable with. This helps them in that regard. But you also have anti-Semitism that has gotten marbled into this party. You can be for the Palestinians without being an anti-Jewish bigot, but there are some anti-Jewish bigots out there. And there's some disquiet now, and there has to be. How much of what just happened is caving into some of these darker parts in the party? So that's going to have to get worked out. It's going to have to get talked through.
That's fun. Shout out to MRC Newsbusters for that clip. So that is fun, because there is a fracture that they are recognizing, and they had to make a decision on it. It's a big fat fracture. It just confirms that this Palestine-Israel split is big and monstrous, and they don't know what to do about it. If they would have picked Shapiro, they might lose the entire wall over there. They might lose Minnesota. Holy moly. Could you believe that? Because Minnesota was 230,000 votes, which was a lot. And so if they're now concerned that maybe if they pick Shapiro, they're going to alienate Minnesota, they're definitely losing Michigan. So that's curious. And I think that's right. Democrats have a pretty big problem. Alan Dershowitz, you know him. He's on YouTube. He said, did Harris reject Shapiro just because progressives don't like that he was Jewish? Yeah, that's right. They did. Yeah, pretty much exactly. Newt Gingrich has some reaction. He says it's amazing that Vice President Harris had a chance to move towards the center, pick her governor of Pennsylvania, whose 19 electoral college votes could easily be the margin of victory, and who's closer to the center than she is, but she skipped him. In part because of anti-Semitic opposition from the pro-Palestinian wing of the Democratic Party. For a hard-left governor of Minnesota who's been endorsed by Bernie Sanders. We learned a lot about her in that process. Avoid conflict and appease the left, from Newt Gingrich, which is a good take. Our friend Julie Kelly, you know who she is over on X, says, if this is true, this is also pretty interesting. Politico was reporting about this today, said that after the announcement, the question was asked, why not Shapiro? They say, well, Josh Shapiro's team felt that his own interview with Harris did not go as well as it could have. According to him or according to her? Politico said that there was not, quote, not a great feeling coming out of it, according to a person in touch with Shapiro's advisors. A person familiar with the selection process told our colleagues that after their meeting on Sunday, Shapiro called Harris's team and made clear that he was, quote, struggling with the decision to leave his current job as the governor in order to seek the vice presidency. So you could read this a number of different ways. I think one way to read this is just as cope from Shapiro. It's just like, well, I didn't really want the job anyways. Is that what that is? I'm happy where I'm at. I don't really want the job. I think you want the job. So maybe that's just Cope trying to fill in the fact that he wasn't selected. Or maybe he had a conversation with Kamala and he just said, wow, she's terrible. She's worse than Joe. I can't be here because we're going to lose. And some people are thinking that too, right? Maybe people don't want to join in on this dumpster fire because they don't want to sacrifice their capability, their possibility in 2028. So who knows if that's real or not, but it's a fun report from Politico and we appreciate it. Ben Shapiro, who is a Jew, pretty sure, says, as someone who wants Kamala to lose, picking Walz is wonderful. It's political malpractice. Why? Well, he's not from a swing state. Yeah, I don't know what that was all about. He's radical, underscoring her radicalism, and she rejected Shapiro to please the pro-Hamas caucus, which is how this is going to go. I mean, I love this talking point moving forward. She's not competent, and this pick shows it. I think this one also came out with Nancy Pelosi's reaction. So she's very happy with Tim Walz. We're going to listen to her, and then we're going to listen to Byron Donalds. He's going to react to her. So Byron Donalds is coming up next, and he's going to respond to this clip. So let's listen to this clip in full, then we'll hear some reaction over from Byron.
This morning, 4 times. So we'd love to hear your first reaction to the
Nancy.
Choice of Tim Walz
there you go.
as Kamala Harris's running mate.
Good morning. Wonderful to be with you all.
Sunday
Tim
morning.
Walz is wonderful. And she had many good choices among the 6 and certainly among the 2. I'm a big fan of Governor Shapiro. Tim Walz, I know very well. He served in the House. To characterize him as left is so unreal. It's just not what the question. He's right down the middle. He's a Heartland of America Democrat. And he was the chair of our Veterans Affairs Committee. And I don't want anybody to forget.
Heartland of America. Is that driver's license for illegal immigrants, tampons for boys, burning of police precincts? Is that what that is for? That's not what I thought it was, but okay.
Because he made tremendous, tremendous gains for our veterans. Working with our folks on the Appropriations Committee and with the Speaker, we made more progress than had ever been made in the history of our country since the GI Bill under his leadership. 25 years in the National Guard, longest serving non-commissioned officer ever served in the Congress of the United States. So he brings the security credential, he brings the rural credential, and he will do well in moral America. And I heard Joe say, well, Biden did better. Well, Biden was running against Donald Trump. Joe Biden, Tim Walz was running against somebody who had more credentials in rural America, but he still won.
What?
He still won. So I really, it's mystifying to me.
It's funny how they put the American colors on this thing, even though that's not what I think they've chosen for their campaign.
With, shall we say, right down the middle, characterized on the left in this regard. He has her confidence, obviously. That was the decision that the president, our presidential nominee, soon to be president of the United States, has made. I respect the decision, and I respect all the rest. Look at the bench. Josh Shapiro, fabulous, Buttigieg, Beshears, Pritzker, the list goes on of so many great leaders in the Democratic Party across the country.
All right, someone needs to cut her off of those morning beverages. You know what I'm saying? It's just a little too much. It's too early for that, Nancy. It's not even noon yet. What are you doing? Okay, so here's Byron Donalds. He's responding to this, and they play a little bit of that clip for us, and then let's just jump right into it. From Byron. What'd you think of that clip from Crazy Nancy, Byron?
That is the weakest answer from Nancy Pelosi. The reason why she had to pause is because she knows that Tim Walz is a radical progressive.
Clearly.
Look, Tim Walz agrees with Nancy Pelosi. He agrees, obviously, with Kamala Harris that what we must have in our country are massively open borders. Tim Walz signed into law driver's licenses for illegal immigrants in Minnesota. He wanted health care for illegal immigrants in Minnesota. This guy is incredibly left-wing. And let's be very clear. The reason why Josh Shapiro is not the pick, and don't believe me, all you got to do is look at the tweet of Jared Moskowitz, Democrat member of Florida, is that the Democrat Party has a massive anti-Semitism problem.
Oh!
That is why they did not pick Josh Shapiro, because it probably would have cost them Michigan and Minnesota. So Jewish voters in our country need to look at...
Yes, Minnesota is where he's from. And man, could you imagine that swing? Like they have such a problem with this that they're freaked out about a state with 240,000 vote difference, 230,000 I think it was officially in 2020. So they're like, man, we have a 250,000 vote swing that we're nervous about. So they have to pick this guy to shore him up and to shore up Michigan. Woo!
This very, very clearly. They picked another radical left-wing Democrat who will cater to Hamas and will not actually be supportive of Israel, especially when Israel is facing a very real threat right now in the Middle East.
On that point, sir, there's recent articles about Josh Shapiro supporting private vouchers for schools, which the teachers union does not like. Does it appear that Josh Shapiro was too conservative for Kamala Harris?
Maybe. But what Byron just said there, Bill, is he's too Jewish.
I think so. Because look, Kamala Harris has always believed in the most radical positions possible. When she was in the Senate, she co-sponsored the Green New Deal. She co-sponsored universal health care using Medicaid, the Bernie Sanders plan, which would have been disastrous for private health insurance. It would have taken away private health insurance from 150 million Americans. You know what she did with the southern border, completely radical and out of control.
Byron's on fire, man.
There's a reason why Kamala Harris won't answer questions. What are we, day 16?
Yeah.
And there's been not one question and answer session with Kamala Harris and the press because they are trying to hide her radicalism the same way Nancy Pelosi's trying to hide the radicalism of Tim Walz. Oh, because he was the chair of Veterans Affairs? So what? That doesn't mean anything. What matters is what did you do when you were a governor, Tim Walz? And what matters is what did Kamala Harris do when she was vice president and a United States senator? This is a very dangerous ticket, a very liberal ticket, a very progressive ticket. This ticket will leave the American people last at a time where the American people have already been left behind by Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
Man, outstanding. Byron is on fire.
So Governor Walz is not with a terrifically, to put it mildly, a terrifically wide public presence among Americans. 9 out of 10 say they don't know enough about him in order to have an opinion.
Well,
but he did gain some sort of internet notoriety this week after coining the term weird to describe the Trump ticket, as well as you and your Republican colleagues in the Congress. Is this a case of maybe the Harris campaign going for the shiniest object in the room?
I don't think that's the shiniest object at all. I had no idea who Tim Walz was either, and I'm in politics. I do this for a living. Look, I think it didn't matter if it was him or Tim Kaine. I know people don't remember that name. That was Hillary's vice presidential nominee. He was dull and boring, too.
Yeah, so it's the same dude. I'm so happy he made that connection. This morning on Locals, our members-only stream for our YouTube friends, too, we actually pulled up Tim Kaine and Walz. They both have the same first name, and if you put glasses on them, it's basically the same dude. One dude has a little less hair, that's all.
It doesn't really matter whether you're a shiny object or not. What matters is what are your policy positions? And I want to tell the American people very clearly, Harris, Walz are not going to fix inflation. They're not going to fix our economy. They will not fix the southern border. And let's be very clear, with what's going on internationally right now, do you really expect Kamala Harris and Tim Walz to bring peace to the Middle East and the world? I don't think so. There's only one person who can do that, and that's Donald J. Trump.
Yeah! Byron Donalds in the house. Man, that's a burner right there. 445 of Byron Donalds just crushing. Well done, Byron. All right, so I think his points are astute. It's not that interesting. And there's this sort of devolution, this devolving of the vice presidential slot. Okay, Obama picks the dumbest person he knows. That's Joe. Joe picks the dumbest person he knows. That's Kamala. Kamala picks someone who is maybe not the dumbest person, but like, not an A player, clearly. She picks Walz. It's just like diminishing one after another, never-ending battle that continues to happen. And what just happened to my entire computer? Okay, there we go. So we're back. All right, so I don't know what the heck just happened. I pressed a button and it was going to take a screenshot or something. All right, snipping tool. Sorry. My hands are flying all over the place. All right, so we're back. And we got Byron Donalds, who is out there just delivering, dropping the hammer. And we also saw Ron DeSantis was out there afoot and speaking from a very stormed eastern coast. And we're praying for all of our friends over there. I know there's a lot of damage that's been occurring over these last few days. He came out and had the same thing to say.
We all remember the BLM riots
we
of
sure
2020 in Minneapolis. Those were riots that Harris egged on and raised money to bail out the rioters with the Minnesota Bail Fund. And they're riots that Tim Walz, as governor, sat back and let happen. He sat back and let the city of Minneapolis burn. That city has been gutted as a result of those riots. We would never allow that to happen in the state of Florida. So this is a ticket that really represents the spirit of those 2020 BLM riots. And you have a very vapid San Francisco Democrat, and then you've got a Ilhan Omar-style leftist, Tim Walz, who has the same policies as his fellow Minnesotan Ilhan Omar.
Yeah,
we do not need an America that represents the failed policies of San Francisco or the failed policies of Minneapolis. We do not need to see poop on the street and cities burning down. That is not a prescription for America to work its way back. And I can just tell you, as governor of Florida, particularly in that 2020-2021 period, people fled those jurisdictions, and they'd come to Florida and they would tell me about the mismanagement and about letting the inmates run the asylum and how that just destroyed the quality of life. And so I think it was in that period you were 5 times more likely to move from Minnesota to Florida than vice versa.
Yeah.
And that's a result of people fleeing those failed policies. Why would we want that for the United States of America?
We
Where are
wouldn't.
people going to flee to? We can't have everybody live in the state of Florida. I can tell you that. Anybody have any questions?
No questions, sir. Thank you for that delivery. And I think you're right about that. People don't want to see crap on their streets. No, we certainly don't. And thank you, Ron DeSantis, for clarifying that. We also have our friend Robert Barnes out there. Saw this from Robert Barnes. Shout out to our friend Robert Barnes. We're going to repost that one. You can follow along at home. Here's one. Isn't that fun? It's like a scene from, like, I think Lion King or something, like Simba. Remember, I think Mustafa or whatever is in the clouds looking down upon little Simba. What's his name? They're looking down upon Minneapolis. This is their work they're doing. Congratulations, you two. A job burnt to the ground. Terrible. So that's one building. I don't know whose business that was. But we have a fun clip from the governor. I'm sorry, the governor's wife, who says that she loves the smell of peasants in the morning. Ooh, it feels so good when she wakes up, comes out, just takes a big old whiff of burning small businesses percolating through her state. Oh, yes. The little people. I'm suffering with them now that I get to smell their stench permeating the air.
I would say those first days, when there were riots, I could smell the burning tires. And that was a very real thing. And I kept the windows open for as long as I could because I felt like that was such a touchstone of what was happening.
Yes, suffer with us. Suffer with the people. I just thought it was my duty to smell the burning and be a part of this like everybody else. Well, not exactly like everybody else, like the guy whose business is burning and smoldering to the ground that I'm smelling from my nice mansion is a little different. He's in a little worse position, but I can still commiserate. I was there. We were experiencing this reformation in America. Fight for George Floyd. Fight for BLM. Release people from custody. And let's smell the little peasants burning together. Sick, weird people. Very strange, very weird. And that's the governor's wife, of all things. Ben Shapiro also shared this one, which was funny. Watching BLM burn down cities, Kamala and Walz together. Kamala and Walz together. And they even got the colors right, so that's good. Kind of right. I don't think that's an Asian dude. I don't think so. But I could be wrong. I don't want to mislabel anybody's pronouns. All right. We also have JD Vance, who was out saying that they make a great team together. Here's JD, vice president against vice president.
This is a guy who's proposed shipping more manufacturing jobs to China, who wants to make the American people more reliant on garbage energy instead of good American energy, and has proposed defunding the police just as Kamala Harris does. I think it's interesting, actually. They make an interesting tag team because, of course, Tim Walz allowed rioters to burn down Minneapolis in the summer of 2020, and then the few who got caught, Kamala Harris helped bail them out of jail. So it is more instructive for what it says about Kamala Harris, that she doesn't care about the border, she doesn't care about crime, she doesn't care about American energy, and most importantly, she doesn't care about the Americans who have been made to suffer under those policies.
Boom! Well done. Okay, so that's one clip on an airplane. Now, let me share this with you. We're not going to play all 15 minutes of this, but I do want to play a little bit of this because this is good, man. And JD Vance, this is a great format for him. He came out, shout out to Carly Bonnie, who clipped this for us at Carluska P on X, shared this one. Let's do a repost on this so you can watch the full thing on our timeline because we're not going to do it here. It's 15 minutes. But JD Vance just came out. He's fielding questions from the press, and he crushed it on this. I listened to about, I think, 8 minutes of it as we were prepping for the show here. But it's good. Let's listen to a little bit of it together.
I don't even know if we're actually going to get Tim Walz out of this campaign. And I think that a lot of us are asking ourselves, well, it's not going to be official until the Democrats actually nominate him, I guess, at their convention next week. So that's the first reason. The second.
Interesting. So this is the same thing that Trump posted on Truth, saying, are we even going to get Kamala and Walz? Or are they going to shove in Michelle or somebody else down their gullets at the last minute at the DNC? Interesting to hear that again.
The reason is, look, Tim Walz's record is a joke. He's been one of the most far-left radicals in the entire United States government at any level. But I think that what Tim Walz's selection says is that Kamala Harris has bent the knee to the far left of her party, which is what she always does. Yep. Kamala Harris listened to the Hamas wing of the party. She selected Tim Walz, a guy who wants to ship more manufacturing jobs to China, who wants to give illegal aliens driver's license, and who wants to make the fentanyl crisis that we just heard about so much worse because he refuses to do his job and actually make it easier for American citizens and not illegal aliens to live a good life. So I think what it says is that Kamala Harris is running as a San Francisco liberal. She is governed as a San Francisco liberal, and she's chosen a running mate who will be a San Francisco-style liberal. The last thing that I'll say about Tim Walz is, to her credit, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz do make an interesting team, because if we remember the rioting in the summer of 2020, Tim Walz was the guy who let rioters burn down Minneapolis, and then Kamala Harris was the one who bailed the rioters out of jail.
Yeah,
so there's an interesting team in that sense.
Defund the police. It has to happen. Questions about building a wall.
Well, if you build a 100-foot wall, you're going to have a lot fewer illegal aliens coming into this country, and it's obvious, and it worked when Donald Trump was president. Look, no one has ever said a wall keeps out 100% of illegal aliens, but if it keeps out 98%, I'd say we're doing pretty good. And that means less fentanyl, less drugs, and less crime coming into our communities. So I was at the border just a few days ago. It's a lot hotter down there in South Arizona than it is here in Philadelphia. I remember seeing the slats of border wall just sitting on the ground. And why are they sitting on the ground instead of being constructed? Because Kamala Harris said you're not allowed to construct border wall anymore. That means more fentanyl in South Philly. That means more orphan children. That means more suffering Americans, and we can't let Kamala Harris forget it.
All right, one more question.
Congratulate him to
say he was along for the ride after he was chosen as vice president, Harris.
Could you repeat the beginning of that? I missed the first one.
Earlier today, you said that you called Governor Walz, so clearly at least part of you believes that he could be the vice presidential candidate. Are you saying that you will not debate him, or will you agree to go on the debate stage with Tim Walz?
No, I absolutely want to debate Tim Walz, but I want to debate him actually after he's actually officially the nominee.
Yeah.
And I did call him and congratulate him and offered him my best wishes. I think that's the polite thing to do. But look, would it shock me if the Democrats pulled another switcheroo? No, it wouldn't. So look, we're going to wait until they actually nominate Kamala Harris and Tim Walz before we do any debates. And then, of course, we want to have a robust debate again because we believe the American people have the right to have their political leaders try to persuade them. And that is what's so scandalous about Kamala Harris's basement campaign. 16 days she has been the presumptive nominee of the Democrat Party. 0 times she has sat for a real media interview. That's a disgrace. Nobody should ask to lead the American people unless she's willing to answer tough questions. And if she's too afraid of the American media, how is she possibly going to deal with Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping and a bunch of world leaders all over the globe?
Good stuff from JD. And you know what's so cool about this is he's taking questions from the press. He's like, she could be doing this right here. I'm doing it. What? Next one, next one, next one, next one. He goes on for like 4 minutes. 11 more minutes. 15 minus 4, 11. Carry the 5, divide by 2. Quadratic formula. A lot longer. And so if you want to watch the rest of that, make sure you do that. Check it out. I just reposted it over on X. We're excited about this new JD Vance, man. That is solid. He looks solid. Like he's got his feet under him right now. Came out, just through the press. No problem at all. And Kamala can't do that. And we'll see if Tim Walz, rhymes with balls, does that. This is JD Vance, and I think this was a tremendous pick for the right. I'm very excited that they didn't pick somebody who's a lot more competent and capable. We're looking forward to the battle ahead, and JD Vance, I think, is going to represent. Now, let's learn more about Tim, because there's a lot that's dumping. Like, we haven't even had any time for opposition research, but things are rough. The Trump team, not wasting any time, they've already come out with a new ad blasting Tim Walz. And the reason for that is because he's done some weird stuff, like stocking tampons in boys' bathrooms, which is a strange concept because it's really small. Like, I don't know where you're going to put it. Now, or weirder than signing legislation that allows minors to receive sex change operations? Oh my gosh, this seems weird, man. Let's see what this video says.
What could be weirder than signing a bill into law that requires schools to stock tampons in boys' bathrooms?
Yeah.
Or weirder than signing legislation allowing minors to receive sex change operations?
Weird.
Try electing the man who signed those bills Vice President of the United States. Enter Chief Weirdo Tim Walz. As governor of Minnesota, Walz supported legislation that endangers minors, hurts women, and puts radical ideology ahead of common sense. Now Kamala wants Walz to enforce those laws on a national scale. Tim Walz, too weird, too radical.
Paid for by Make America Great Again, Inc. Dropped on Tim Walz immediately. So you can see a bunch of weird stuff. Tampons for boys. Don't even know where you'd put that stuff, but that's what Tampon Tim is really excited about. Now, here is another post. So in addition to thinking that that was proper medical care, I guess, for young males, he also was telling people to snitch on each other during the pandemic. You remember this. This happened all the time. I remember getting phone calls from people. Cops are at my hair salon. Cops are at my gym. Cops are at my business because of people like this. It was disgusting. And remember that certain people could go out and do certain things. They did this disgusting thing where they said that some people were essential. Remember that? Lunatics. Where they told me, oh, you're a lawyer. You're essential. Oh, I am? Oh, that's nice. So everybody else is not essential? You mean like the construction workers and other people that we rely on every day? They're not essential because some psychopath said that? Oh, makes me furious. So he set up a hotline like a good communist in March 2020. And law enforcement continued to monitor it until November. Well, after the stay-at-home order ended, continue to monitor it. He set up a hotline. The hotline was launched March 2020. Law enforcement monitored it, okay? They send the cops to people's houses. In October, it was used to alert authorities to a church service that didn't fit with the governor's, quote, legal requirements. Sorry. Oh, you're Lutheran? No, not during a pandemic. Someone sent this one in. I'm aware that the Apostolic Lutheran Church at this location is planning to hold church services. Hundreds are expected. They're going to be serving meals in the church in their dining hall. I don't believe this fits with the legal requirements, and I am aware that multiple families that attend this church currently have coronavirus. Yeah, people often would send in lists of non-essential businesses. Make you rage. Oh, you're non-essential, so just sit at home and starve. BCA said it was tasked with triaging or reporting this. The Snitch line, all of these people were behind it. One emails, this is what the hotline said. A person reported a very large gathering of a basketball game. Yeah, they should go home and get fat and die, I guess. My name is so-and-so, City Park. I know there's 50 people in a park, and I'd love for parks to stay open, but I'm a COVID Nazi, and so we want everything locked down. Okay, so you can see this guy was behind it. Now, I hope we relive this. I hope people start to relive this. This is what this guy was responsible for it. That's the benefit of not having a governor, right? Kamala didn't have to make those hard decisions. This guy did, and he made bad decisions. He locked everybody down. It didn't save lives, in my opinion. I don't think there's any evidence that shows that it did. If there was evidence and we saved 1 million lives, they'd be shoving that in our faces every day. There isn't any evidence. So what all this was about punishing certain people and elevating others and having the government seize more of your life. It was disgusting and reprehensible. In fact, this guy is so sick, guess we'll follow him now, says big news, okay? He was paying people to go get the jab. That's how much this guy was involved in backing pharma. Says big news, starting this month, families who get their 5 to 11-year-olds vaccinated get $200. Here you go, have $200 to do that to your child. Sick. That's cash in your pocket. And starting the year off right by protecting your child from COVID. All right, let's see what the CDC says. So anyways, that's Governor Tim Walz. Get the kids vaccinated, get money, we'll pay you to do it. Go just jab your kids, we'll literally bribe you to do it. It's sick, man, it's sick. So that's Tim Walz. And there was also more, apparently RNC Research clipped this. Says he literally set up a snitch line. Let's see, maybe this is a voicemail from the snitch line. This says, yep, this is his idea of being neighborly. Is this what good socialism is? This was clipped over from Cicero MN. Says this is from the Tim Walz COVID snitch line. If my account is remembered for anything, let it be this. This is Tim Walz's idea of being neighborly. Okay, this is neighbors.
Hello, you have reached the Department of Public Safety stay-at-home hotline. The information you leave is considered public information. At the tone, please leave the following information: your name, your callback number, how the stay-at-home order is being violated, and where the stay-at-home order was violated. Thank you.
Record your message at the tone. When you are finished, hang up or press pound for more options.
All right, you little communists, you got to be careful leaving messages on those lines, okay? Those are honeypots for the feds because people leave nasty messages on them. I'm going to do this to this person or this to that person, and they'll come arrest you and charge you with threatening a public official. So that's Tim Walz. That's what he did during COVID. He locked people down, said who was essential, who was not essential, punished people who disobeyed, set up little communist tip lines so that everybody could report their fellow citizens, all while he ran around like a king in Minnesota as the governor. Guy's something else. Now, we carry on. Let's talk about next this DUI arrest. Tim Walz's DUI records now are public. We're going to go through them in detail today, including the transcript from when he entered his change of plea. We've got a police report, very limited. It's an old 1995 case, but it's coming back to bite him. And this has come forward from Alpha News. Now, a question that we have, of course, is the Democrats said you can't not have a convicted criminal who is running this country or even close to running this country. We don't want a criminal in the White House. Well, this guy is a convicted criminal. Trump hasn't even been sentenced yet. So in my opinion, there's really no conviction to enter into a record until that happens. So that has not even happened yet. But Tim Walz clearly has a criminal conviction. And so what is Kamala doing hiring a convicted criminal onto her campaign? Doesn't that shatter that stupid talking point on the right? So every time they say Trump's a convicted felon, Trump's a convicted felon, say you guys a convicted reckless DUIer, convicted reckless driver, got a misdemeanor for driving well over the legal limit at 0.128. Now, if you look around, most states are 0.08. In Arizona, the extreme DUI is 0.15. So he's under the extreme level, but he's still well over the legal limit, like not even close. Like you're not beating that DUI on a margin of error. It's not a 0.082 or something like that, okay, which is right on that margin. It's much higher. So we had a blood alcohol concentration of 0.128 at the time of the incident, long time ago, don't get me wrong. And it's something that he got a good plea deal on, but it's still a conviction. So this came over from Alpha News. Let's jump into the actual filings. Before we do, this is the mugshot. Came over from Kyle Becker. Clip this one for us. This is the mugshot of Tim Walz after he got his DUI. And this is what the police report looks like. Tim Walz in the county court of Dawes County, Nebraska. CR 95-512 in the matter of Timothy J. Walz. This is an affidavit of reasonable or probable cause for an arrest without a warrant. It's a misdemeanor. Long time ago, 1995 case, as you can see from the CR 1995. It says the undersigned, a law enforcement officer, being duly sworn upon, here does say the following. Pursuant to state law, I have information and determined, detailed without a warrant, that the above named person on September 23rd, 1995 at 21:30 p.m. DWI under Nebraska code. Now, here's what this officer says upon pulling over Tim. He says, all right, at approximately 21:30 on 9/23/95, the officer writes, Trooper Razgorshek, number 222, observed a silver 93 Mazda Northeastern on the 65 B176, probably the mile marker, traveling at a high rate of speed. The vehicle was tracked on radar, fast speed, 96 in a 55 mile per hour zone. Now in Arizona, that's also criminal speeding. If you go too fast, that's criminal speeding. Contact was made with the driver, who was identified as Timothy Walz, date of birth 4/6/64. A strong odor of alcoholic beverage was detected emitting from Mr. Walz's breath and person. Mr. Walz was given a field sobriety test, which he failed. And we know what those tests are. These days, I don't know what they were in 1995. I was 10 years old at the time. But now, these days, they're the pen test, right? Where you take the pen, you are checking for nystagmus in the eyeball, and you move the pen around and you try to check to see if the eyes move like windshield wipers as they travel back and forth. We also do the one leg stand and the walk and turn test. They're all easy to fail, okay? In fact, we recommend that people don't actually do them. Check your local state laws for those. But these are just tests meant to ensnare you and give the government evidence. So in Arizona, you can reject the field sobriety tests without consequence. Now, it gets a little bit more complex when you talk about rejecting a blood test or a breathalyzer. I'm sorry, or an intoxilizer test, not the breathalyzer. So it gets complex. But anyways, field sobriety tests, they're designed to fail. Not a big deal. Mr. Walz then submitted to a preliminary breath test, a PBT. That's something else that you can reject in many states, not all states. In Arizona, you can, which he failed. And then he was transported to the hospital where a blood test was taken. Okay, now that's the one that actually matters. These PBTs, these are handheld tests. They're just giving them an estimate. It's not even scientific. That PBT test number doesn't even come in as evidence. All it does is give them probable cause, as does the field sobriety tests. That's all they're for. So, okay, he comes in, he says, yep, failed the PBT, boom, blood comes back. He was then transported to the county jail, booked in at approximately 12:45, looks like, or 22:45 rather, probably. 21, yeah, looks like 22:45. It's about an hour or 15 minutes on 9/23/1995. Now, the offense committed was in my presence, so he's sitting on the side of the road at Northeast 65, B176, doing speed patrol, sees a 96 and a 55, pulls the guy over, he's lit, does some roadside agility maneuvers, field sobriety test, does a PBT, gets arrested, and he's booked. All right, happens, very common. I've worked on, I don't know, maybe 1,000 of these cases. So let's see what else happened. Then we go to court back in 1995. So that is the traffic stop. He gets pulled over. He gets a lawyer, it looks like, for the case is a transcript, looks like a change of plea proceedings. Let's read through it. Why not? State of Nebraska versus Timothy Walz. This is the arraignment, plea, and sentencing. Okay, so this is everything that happens all in one. And by the way, back in 1995, DUIs were not a big deal like they are today. We have Mothers Against Drunk Driving. We have billions of dollars of federal funds. Tons of money gets poured into DUI patrol. States get giant government grants to do DUI enforcement. It's a whole business now. There's a whole entity around this. Mothers Against Drunk Driving, raise millions of dollars. Cops get tons of money from it. You get all of the interlock companies that put devices in your car. They get tons of money. You got mandatory counseling, mandatory alcohol screening, thousands of dollars in fines. Okay, the states make tons of money from DUIs. They get a $100,000 grant from the feds. They go, prosecute 1,000 people. And then, or how many people? A ton of people. Those people have to pay $5,000 a piece. They make their money back in spades. They're already getting free money from the government, but then they use that money to go get more money because they charge you with a DUI. You got to pay thousands of dollars. So anyways, used to be a big thing. Now, it was a lot smaller of a thing, probably even more in a rural area in Nebraska, a totally different environment. Like this doesn't happen that much these days anymore. But there's an arraignment, a plea, and a sentencing all in the same day. Okay, everything gets wrapped up like in one. So he shows up to court. He's got his lawyer for the defense, Russell Hartford, an attorney there. Court stenographer's there. She certifies the following. It's verified. So here's how it works. The judge comes out. He says, all right, Nebraska. Says, at this time, we'll take up the case, State of Nebraska versus Timothy Walz. Says, Mr. Walz is present in the courtroom. His lawyer is here. Mr. Nolan is here, the Dawes County attorney, small court. Is there going to be an amendment to the complaint then by plea agreement? He says, to the complaint then by plea agreement. Is there going to be an amendment by a plea agreement? He says, yes, Your Honor. Pursuant to a plea agreement, the state would reduce the charge to reckless driving. And this is another common thing that a lot of DUIs try to get pled to, but a lot of government offices won't reduce them to reckless drivings because of the grants, because of the money. They have to get a certain number of DUI convictions, so they don't give you a benefit. So you just get stuck with reckless driving, even if you're at like at a .086 or whatever. They just don't care, at least in Arizona. Now, from a DUI. Now, the court and Mr. Hartford, there will be a plea then to the indiscernible. There'll be a plea to the indiscernible. Judge, that's correct. I think that the complaint may reflect that. It may not. I'm not sure if there was a speeding count. So normally when you get a DUI, when you get a criminal ticket, you probably had them like your name's up here, date of birth, all your identifying information. Then you have the charges down here, and so here he probably had DUI. Then he probably had like a speeding charge, right? He had two of them, like 1 and 2 is what they're talking about. He says, the court says, well, I'm looking at it. There is a speeding and a government says, it's my understanding that the speeding and the DUI would be amended. So they're just going to take these two. They're going to amend those to reckless driving. Okay, so practically the way this is going to work, this is a nice deal from him, is the prosecutor is going to basically, maybe even on the same form, scratch this out. Okay, we're just going to delete those. We're going to turn those into a reckless driving. And that's going to be the new charge. And if you do that, then we'll plead guilty to that. Okay, then we'll just plead guilty to the charge. You just amended it. You changed it to something different. Then there will be a plea to that, Judge. Okay, he says, okay. So will there be an amended complaint? Will you just scribble that out like I just did? Will you file that? He says, yes, Your Honor, we will. Okay, then, Mr. Walz. This is Governor Walz now. We will proceed on today then. You'll not have a written copy of this complaint because we're scribbling it all together right now, like they did everything in one setting. This is how it works in some small towns. I've been to some small courts. In fact, I've been to several of them where you can get amazing things done because it's just like, let's get this done with. But it will change. It will charge you. So like, you're not going to see this, but we're writing it now. We're going to call this reckless driving. Now, reckless driving carries a maximum of 3 months in jail, $500 fine. This is the maximum possible penalty. There is no minimum penalty required by law. A lot of other states have mandatory minimums, like at least a day of jail or something. There are no court order suspensions on reckless drivings either, but there could be a loss of a license if you have a points problem. Do you understand that? Walz says, yes, Your Honor. Now, Mr. Walz, also, it's true that on reckless driving, somewhat similar to a DUI second offense, DWI, then at the later time, it would be a more serious than a first. Okay, if you get a second reckless driving, it's worse than the first, just like a second DUI is worse than the first. There's an enhancement. Do you understand that? Yes, Your Honor. And finally, Mr. Walz, the complaint would allege that you drove a vehicle in a manner as to indicate an indifferent or wanton disregard for the safety of persons or property. Do you understand that? This is what the law says about reckless driving. Okay, if you're going to plead guilty to this, we have to tell you, you have to agree that you did the thing that you're pleading guilty to. Like, we can't change this into shoplifting, right? Because it's like not even close. Reckless driving, it's like, okay, if you're under the influence of alcohol, yeah. Are you indifferent to the safety of others? Yeah, kind of. Is it a wanton disregard for the safety of others? Yeah, kind of. So it applies. Do you understand that? Yes. Now, Mr. Walz, how do you want to plead to that charge then of reckless driving? I plead guilty. And again, do you understand what this charge is now and what the penalties could be? So they just changed it. Okay, they walked in, they just changed it right there. At the arraignment, the plea, and the sentencing. Yes, Your Honor. Have you received any promises or threats or pressure to get you to plead guilty? No, Your Honor. And this is wild, right? For anybody who's had a DUI or ever known anybody who's gotten a DUI, how amazing this is. Okay, people have hired me and my law firm when I was at the R&R Law Group building our team there, thousands and thousands of dollars to represent them on stuff like this because it doesn't work like this anymore. This is a totally different time. The county attorney has agreed to dismiss these other two charges and only charge you with reckless driving. Has anything else been agreed to by the county attorney that you know of? Are you doing anything else? No, Your Honor, not that I know of, says Walz. Do you understand that by pleading guilty now you give up your right to a jury trial? Walz says, yes, Your Honor. And then your right to see, hear, and have a lawyer question the witnesses against you. You give that up too. Yes, Your Honor. Also, you give up your right to testify and to present a defense, right? Yes, Your Honor. And finally, you give up the right to remain silent. Yes, Your Honor. And so the court finds then the plea of guilty is knowingly, voluntarily, and intelligently made. Mr. Nolan, the defense attorney, can you please provide a factual basis then? And so he's going to describe the actual crime. Sure, happy to, Your Honor. He says, I don't remember the exact date, this is kind of amateur hour right here. You never have to remember the exact date, all right? You just say, of course, Your Honor, happy to provide a factual basis. At the time, date, and location listed in the complaint. That's all you say, every time, okay? At the time, date, and location listed in the complaint, then you go on. It's just, it's okay. It's 1995. They probably didn't know any better. And Your Honor, and I don't have that file. He's like, I don't even have the file. I don't even know what I'm looking at. He says, okay. So you'd say at the time, date, and location listed in the complaint, just to, little tip there. I don't know if Mr. Nolan's around anymore, but, little tip. Says, Mr. Walz was driving south of town on the 385 in Dawes County at a high rate of speed. Actually, he was driving away from the police officer. I think that eventually he hit a speed of over 80, as I recall. When he was stopped, he was given a blood test, which he did show a .128 blood alcohol. Thus, that would be the basis for the reckless driving, Your Honor. I'm sorry, the exact date I don't have. It appears on the complaint. There you go. Finally got it in there at the end. Okay, so that's September 23rd, 1995. He says, yes, September 23rd, 1995. Now, the prosecutor comes in. It's kind of a weak factual basis, if I'm being honest with you. It's just kind of like, I don't know, kind of got pulled. Okay, so the prosecutor comes back in. He's like, all right, look, I got to add some stuff to that because that was like pretty basic. So let me add some stuff. Prosecutor says, Your Honor, I think I can probably just add a little bit to that. Says, I apologize both to the court and to Mr. Nolan, for I thought that this was scheduled for a pre-trial conference today, so I had Mr. Walz come today. So I was going to talk to him about a plea deal, probably. Which it doesn't make sense, like you're taking a plea deal. Okay, I appreciate the court allowing us to do this today. This is the government prosecutor. Says, it was in fact the date that was alleged in the complaint. You guys got it right. He initially, I think, was clocked by one of the state patrol officers going at about 70. Now, this is weird. The state patrol officer turned around, and then this is a little bit bizarre, but also Mr. Walz thought that somebody was chasing him. The officer didn't turn on his red lights, and somebody came up real fast behind him, and he didn't know what they were doing, and so he sped up to try to get away, fearing that somebody was after him. And by the way, this happens all the time with cops today, all the time. All the time. Cops race up on somebody, they freak out, and they say, oh, you were weaving in the lane. Oh, you deviated from the lines. Oh. They drive like lunatics. I've seen it in body cams. Now, lo and behold, it was a state patrolman that was behind him. So the faster he went, the faster the state patrol officer went. Finally, he did turn on his red lights. The speed was fairly excessive, Judge, a lot over the speed limit, says the prosecutor. I don't even know what was alleged in the complaint, but it may have been 90-something. Wild that a prosecutor's like, I don't know. Mr. Walz had been drinking, so I think there is a sufficient factual basis, Judge, to support the plea. Government's all in. So the court says, all right, well, the court finds then the factual basis by the county attorney is sufficient. You guys have settled this. The court accepts the plea of guilty and finds the defendant, Tim Walz, guilty of reckless driving. Any comments from the state on sentencing? Defense attorney says, well, Your Honor, I think given the circumstances, Your Honor, that the fine that the court has been imposing on a reduction from a DUI to a reckless would be appropriate. Prosecutor, any comments? Oh, Judge, I do have a few comments, says the government. Mr. Walz is asking the court to impose a fine. Did I get those names wrong? Harford is the defense. Okay, so the defense says, this is the defense now, says, I think that this is the kind of case that a fine would not show any disrespect for the law. He did have a relatively low test of a .128, not by today's standards. A .128 is not good. You're not getting a reckless driving on that out of Phoenix Municipal Court. No way. Phoenix Municipal would not give you that at all. In addition, I believe, they would never give you a reckless driving for this, never. In addition, I believe this court has suspended the test result as a result of the Smith case, and the Maggart phonetic case adds some of those cases. More importantly, I think the court should know that Mr. Walz is a teacher at Alliance High School. Been quite a few years. He felt terrible about this, was real disappointed, I guess, in himself. He went through and immediately reported this incident to his principal. He resigned all of his extracurricular duties at the high school. This is the defense attorney, laying it on pretty thick, which included some coaching responsibilities. He also offered to resign his teaching position because he felt so bad. He, I think, takes the position that he's a role model for students. He let them down. He let himself down. Because of that, he was ready to resign. Fortunately, the principal talked him out of it. He did, in fact, though, resign from his extracurricular stuff. Now I think he's taken an opportunity to turn this into a positive for him. Now I guess he's ministering, so to speak, to the students about all the bad things that can happen if you get a DUI. And so I wanted the court to know that he did lose his license for 90 days administratively with the DMV. He's done that suspension. He's jumped through all the hoops. He's got his license reinstated. I think because of these things, Judge, and because I think that there's a good to come from this, in fact, that he now hopefully can reach younger people, we think a fine would be appropriate. Mr. Walz, anything that you want to say here before the court imposes a sentence then? No, Your Honor. Mr. Walz, on this case, there will be a fine of $200 plus court costs, which will include a test fee. Mr. Walz, I I guess it may. I don't know if it may or may not surprise you, but we do have school teachers come in on this offense, and I always have the same concern that your attorney has expressed. You know, this is a real problem for me to see a teacher get picked up for this offense because you do have a role model. That's why you're a teacher. If you didn't think you could affect children's lives, why would you be a teacher? I want to share a couple things I tell people on a DWI offense. The first thing I ask them is, you know, why is it against the law to drive with a 0.18 alcohol content? Why is that against the law? And Walz says, well, it's not just statutory. It's a dangerous situation, Your Honor, not just to myself, but to others who aren't even involved with it. So he's kind of like, you know, poking at him. Absolutely. You're an impaired driver at that situation, and you run the risk of killing yourself and killing somebody else. What is the first effect that alcohol has on you when you drink alcohol? Walz says, I think it impairs your ability to make sound decisions, you know, correct decisions. Right. The first effect is that it affects your judgment. You'll see people doing dumb things, stupid things, says the judge, long before they have trouble talking, walking around, and vision problems, etc. Most people then get picked up for DWI or in the same situation that you were in, when you think you've had a little bit to drink, but you think you can handle it. But the problem with that is that alcohol has affected your judgment, Tim. If you hadn't been drinking, you would have known that you probably shouldn't have been driving. So the rule is you don't drive a vehicle after you've had more than one beer. It's a good rule. The rule is really, I mean, it should be like zero, honestly, because I've seen people charge for zeros, and it's just not. I've seen people come to our office, hire us, blood results come back zeros. They test them again for drugs, zeros. And they still have to suffer through all the consequences because, oops, some Kamala did something. Anytime you've had more than one beer, you don't drink or drive the vehicle, or more than one drink. In fact, in Arizona, the law is impaired to the slightest degree. If you feel it at all, that's illegal. Or more than one drink, and you'll never be back in court again. Just follow that simple rule. Mr. Walz, I sincerely hope that it's true that you've turned this. There's an old saying, every adversary, adversary, I think is what it's got a Y on it. Adversity, every even he's stumbling. Yeah. There's an old saying, every adversity has a seed of a greater benefit. Finally got it out. Must be an old judge. If you can take this into a better thing for you, then it's great. I would certainly suggest that you, in your position, that you educate yourself on the use of alcohol because it's a terrible problem among teenagers. It's a terrible problem among college students. Unless we get support from the people that have an effect on children's lives, you know, a lot of children grow up and have terrible, terrible lives because of the use of alcohol and their abuse of alcohol and high-risk use of alcohol. So I certainly hope, Tim, you've learned from this, and I hope you can share that with your students. Mr. Walz, if you take this out to the clerk and settle up with the clerk, then Walz says, thank you, Your Honor. And he says, That's the end of the proceeding. So that's Tim Walz's DUI, now unsealed and available for all to read. The campaign manager of Tim responded to this in 2006. He was running and said that this was a result, the arrest by a state trooper, the campaign before lied about this, said the arrest of a state trooper was the result of a misunderstanding caused by Walz's deafness. His hearing has since been surgically corrected. The incident was reported by a blog. We know he got pulled over, 96 and a 55. An affidavit of probable cause we read through. He pleaded not guilty, and he sought to suppress the blood alcohol test in court. Wow. According to court papers. It's not what we saw. Yeah, it's not what we saw. It looks like they had everything all done in one day. He paid a $200 fine. Walz's campaign manager, Carrie Greeley, didn't dispute that Walz was speeding, but said that Walz was not drunk. She said he was not drunk. Campaign manager Carrie Greeley didn't dispute that Walz was speeding, but he was not drunk. That's not what the blood results said. She attributed the misunderstanding to Walz's deafness, a condition resulting from his years of serving as an artillerist in the Army National Guard. He's deaf from serving in the Army National Guard? Was he launching artillery? Okay. And by the way, 0.08 is the presumption of intoxication. Okay, if you're at 0.08, the law just says we can just presume you're drunk. There's enough evidence there. They do testing. They actually get people drunk. They measure their BAC and they see what they can do. And so they say at 0.08, you're drunk. So if you're at a 0.128, probably drunk. So they said he couldn't understand what the officer was saying to him because he had his ears blown out in the Army National Guard. Well, we're going to talk about that in a bit. But that is the DUI saga of Tim Walz. He had one. It's quite old. I'm not too worried about it or concerned about it because it's an old DUI. But they're the ones who drew out this very important credential about not having any convicted criminals on a campaign because it's too dangerous for American democracy. They kept telling us Trump's been convicted of crimes, even though he really hasn't. You could make the argument that he was convicted by a jury, but a conviction has not been entered into the record because he's not been sentenced yet. So check a background report, see if there's a conviction on there. There's not going to be. So Walz, though, definitely has one. Kamala just brought him onto the campaign. So only one campaign at this point has a bona fide candidate with a bona fide criminal conviction on their records, and that's Kamala's campaign. All right, and now let's turn our attention to the National Guard because this just gets worse and worse. Kamala's terrible pick, Tim Walz, says that he served in the National Guard. Records confirm that, but the people who served with him say there's a lot more to the story. We've got a letter and a video that are both just brutal. Eric Erickson over from ericerickson.com posted this video, and it came over from Alpha News. And Alpha News also was responsible for other investigations into Tim Walz. But we see that this is an interview with this fella. This guy is going to talk to us about a letter that he wrote along with a group of Command Sergeants Major of the Minnesota National Guard. A group of these gentlemen wrote a letter explaining the truth about Tim Walz. And it is damning. Before we read the actual letter, let's watch this together because boy, is it brutal. Here is what people who know Tim Walz, who served alongside Tim Walz, say about Tim Walz.
The public needs to know how pathetic his leadership was as a National Guardsman.
On a 150-year-old farm in Brewster, Tom Behrens hopes his tell-it-like-it-is style will finally get the attention he believes it deserves in Minnesota's race for governor. In a way, he's back again to wage a public war of words against Tim Walz.
Walz is a traitor.
He abandoned us. You know, I mean, what the hell kind of leader does that? I mean, he just, as soon as the shots were fired in Iraq, he turned and ran the other way and hung his hat up and quit.
We'll get to Barron's new message for voters in a moment. But this all starts years earlier when Barron says Walz's misleading statements about his military service first led him to come forward in the fall of 2018.
So you try to get this message out, but Minnesota's largest newspaper checks it out, says it's 100% true, but yet refuses to print.
When I hung the phone up, I said, what the hell is this, North Korea?
Yeah.
Back in 2005, a warning order went out to the 1st Battalion, 125th Field Artillery to mobilize for a mission to Iraq. At the time, Walz served as the unit's highest non-commissioned officer, but months later, Walz would retire from the Guard, avoid the deployment, and run for Congress.
Bye.
Tom Behrens was next in line for the position and was asked to take his place.
I was like, well, for Pete's sake, this guy quit. And if I say I'm not going to do it, I mean, what the hell kind of leadership is that? If a company would say that we're going to deploy to Iraq or somewhere and you're going to be gone for whatever amount of time, and then a foreman just says, no, I'm not going. I mean, what does that say to the 500 people that work in that factory?
Behrens would go on to serve in Iraq on a nearly 2-year deployment as a command.
Isn't that wild? So Tim Walz could be standing right there. Tim Walz could be standing right there next to him. But he bailed. He ran away, and he was there for a long time, got all the credentials, National Guard. You get called to Iraq, he bails, wants to run for Congress. Use that. He could be standing right there, right next to him, but he didn't. He ran away, and he let the rest of his group go. The rest of his members go.
On to serve in Iraq on a nearly 2-year deployment as a command sergeant major. All while Walz began using that title as a congressman.
Look.
Barron says he first contacted Walz with his concerns, sending these letters to Washington. They all went unanswered. But then we fast forward to the election in 2018 in Minnesota, and you try at that time to get people's attention with this story and also with what seems to be a very misleading statement that he continued to make about his service.
It kind of just sat there, when he was a congressman, he bragged that he was a command sergeant, retired command sergeant major. I'm the highest ranking person ever in the House, and all this lie that he was telling. The state of Minnesota came out after 2018, after this was exposed, and they said, well, he can say that he served as a command sergeant major, but he can't say he's a retired one because he's not.
And that's what he was saying.
And he was saying that, and there was lots of public, lots of cards coming in the mail, for him to be elected. They said right on there he's a retired command sergeant major, just tooting his own horn, just hanging on the coattails of people that actually are command sergeant majors that went through all the process and put all the time in.
A spokesperson for the Minnesota National Guard said Walz wasn't able to retire as a command sergeant major since he failed to complete coursework and requirements related to the rank. Verified documents show the Army corrected his service record. Walz was reduced in rank to an E8 Master Sergeant after retirement and his conditional promotion. Alpha News again asked Governor Walz if he's using the command sergeant major rank on his campaign website for political gain this year. A spokesperson said this has been in the news before and pointed us to a past story where Walz said, quote, normally this type of partisan political attack only comes from one who's never worn a uniform.
It's stolen valor is really what it is. I don't know of anybody else that's done what he's done. But we called it The Truth About Tim Walz.
In 2018, Barron's gave the story the full court press.
We'll read it.
We, retired command sergeant majors of the Minnesota National Guard, feel it is our duty and responsibility to bring forth the truth as we know it concerning his service record. I put together information on it, and I sent it out to every single radio station and newspaper and TV station I could in the state. The bottom line in all of this is gut-wrenching and sad to explain. When the nation called, he quit.
Twin Cities TV stations and the Star Tribune were silent, even after Barron says the newspaper checked it all out. The Star Tribune endorsed Walz in 2018 for governor. Between lockdowns, riots, unchecked crime, and a charred police precinct, Barron's felt he had no choice but again to come forward.
Allowing that to be burned down was just like having the Alamo get burned down. It's like, no, you defend that to the last man. If he would have went to Iraq, he'd still be hiding under his desk over there. Because that's just, just the cowardice that I seen portrayed with him.
So how about when he also comes out and he calls you guys 19-year-old cooks?
I'd take any 19-year-old cook before I'd go to war with him. I don't know how he could even utter such a statement.
It was a sick statement.
It's just absolutely sad.
Yeah.
So this election year, it's all built up again to Barron's new grain bin message.
He called Jacob Fry an abject failure. So I was like, that's what he is.
Walz is a traitor also made a return.
And the last one I put together, he said it himself too, as well, if they don't like my job, they can vote me out. So I wrote, vote him out. We need to vote him out.
All right, and that was before he became the vice presidential nominee. Kamala just picked him because apparently she loves that stuff. Now, this is over from Facebook, and Facebook, as we can see, had this posted. Here's when he posted this. So this is this guy. October 18th, 2018 is when he was sharing this on the Facebooks, and let's read through it together. This is what he posted. The truth about Tim Walz, from a command sergeant major in the Minnesota National Guard who served with Tim Walz specifically. Says Tim Walz has embellished and selectively omitted facts and circumstances of his military career for years. We, retired command sergeants major of the Minnesota National Guard, feel it's our duty and our responsibility to bring forth the truth as we know it concerning his service record. So we've put together a timeline of his service post 9/11. Now, to the best of our knowledge, this information is completely true, having been verified by all those who served in positions with firsthand knowledge of facts and circumstances of his service and departure from the Minnesota National Guard. Many of these dates and times are from his official discharge document and the reduction order reducing him to Master Sergeant. On September 18, 2001, important year, Tim Walz re-enlisted in the Minnesota Army National Guard for 6 years, right? Post 9/11, a lot of people were thinking that. In early 2003, he was selected to attend the United States Army Sergeants Major Academy. The non-resident course consists of 2 years of correspondence coursework, followed by a 2-week resident phase at Fort Bliss, Texas. 2 years, a little bit more. When a senior non-commissioned officer accepts enrollment, they accept 3 stipulations. 1, they will serve for 2 years after they graduate from the academy. Second, if they fail the course, they can be separated from the military. And third, they will complete the course or be reduced to Master Sergeant without board action. They sign a statement of agreement for this. They sign a certification, and they're certified to accept those responsibilities. These stipulations are put in place because the military invests a lot of people and a lot of money and time in these students, and they need to make sure they get a return. Now, in the late summer of 2003, First Sergeant Walz deployed with the 125 Field Artillery Battalion in support of Operation Enduring Freedom to Italy. So he goes to Italy. Operation Enduring Freedom 2003. The mission was to augment the United States Air Force Europe Security Forces for 6 months. In no way were the units or soldiers of this battalion replacing any units or military forces so that they could deploy to Iraq or Afghanistan. They're in Italy. After the units returned to Minnesota in the spring of 2004, he was selected by high-level command sergeants major to serve in the position of command sergeant major for the Field Artillery Battalion. On August 5th, he was photographed holding a sign at a protest outside a President Bush campaign rally. Interesting. On September 17th, right, so he joins, I guess, to fight for America after 9/11, then is opposing Bush, no blood for oil or whatever. On September 17th, 2004, he was conditionally promoted to command sergeant major. The conditions had been outlined to him when he was counseled, and he signed the statement of agreement and certification. If the conditions are not met, promotion happened. In early 2005, a warning order was issued for the battalion, which included the position he was serving in to prepare to be mobilized for active duty to Iraq, early 2005. Between the time the warning order was given and his retirement, he told the brigade command sergeant major not to worry, that he would be going on the mission. I'm not going anywhere. I'll see you over there. We're fighting for our country. No. On May 16, 2005, he quit, saying betraying his country, leaving the 125th Field Artillery Battalion and its soldiers hanging without its senior NCO as the battalion prepared for war. His excuse to other leaders was that he needed to retire in order to run for Congress, which is false according to the DOD directive. He could have run and requested permission from the Secretary of Defense before entering active duty, as many other reservists have. If he had retired normally and respectfully, you would think he would have ensured his retirement documents were correctly filled out and signed, and that he would have ensured that he was reduced to Master Sergeant for dropping out of the academy. Instead, he slithered out the door, and he waited for the paperwork to catch up to him. His official retirement document states, soldier not available for signature. Okay, so can you sign this as your exit interview? No, not signing it, running. On September 10, 2005, conditionally promoted Command Sergeant Walz was reduced to Master Sergeant. It took a while for the system to catch up to him. This is uncharted territory. Literally no one quits in the position he was in. No one drops out of the academy except him. In November 2005, while the battalion trained for war over at Camp Shelby in Mississippi, it received an offer from retired Master Sergeant Walz. He offered to fundraise for the battalion's bus trip home over Christmas that year. The same soldiers he had abandoned just months before, he was trying to buy their votes with a bus. The battalion was deployed for 22 and a half months in 2006 to 2007. During this time, they were restricted by Army regulations and could not speak out against a candidate for office. In 2006, he was elected to the House of Representatives because his brothers and sisters there could not speak out against him. He claims to be the highest ranking enlisted service member ever to serve in Congress, even though he was conditionally promoted to Command Sergeant Major less than 8 months before, quit before his obligations were ever met, and was reduced to Master Sergeant for retirement. Yes, he served at that rank, but he was never qualified at that rank and will receive retirement benefits at one rank below. So you be the judge. On November 1st, 2006, Tom Hagen, Iraq War veteran, wrote a letter to the editor of Winona Daily News. Here are a couple sentences from the letter. But even more disturbing is the fact that Walz quickly retired after learning that his unit in Minnesota would be sent to Iraq. For Walz to abandon his fellow soldiers and quit when they needed experienced leadership the most is disheartening. It dishonors those brave American men and women who did answer their nation's call and who continue to serve and fight and unfortunately die in harm's way for us. Now, here's part of Tim's response. He said, after completing 20 years of service in 2001, I re-enlisted to serve our country for an additional 4 years following 9/11, and I retired the year before my battalion was deployed in Iraq in order to run for Congress. Now, according to his official report of separation and his record of service, he re-enlisted for 6 years. However, in response to that, he said 4, conveniently retiring a year before his battalion was deployed. Now, even if he had re-enlisted for 4 years, his retirement date would have been 2005. So why did he retire in May, not September of 2005, before his supposed 4-year term was up? And he makes it sound like he retired a year before his battalion deployed to Iraq, when in reality, he knew when he retired that they would be deployed. That's why. The bottom line, says Thomas Behrens, Command Sergeant Major, retired, actually qualified at that rank, says the bottom line is this, in all of this, is gut-wrenching and sad to explain. When the nation called, he quit. He failed to complete the U.S. Army Sergeant's Major Academy. He failed to serve for 2 years following the completion of the academy, which he dropped out of. He failed to serve 2 years after the conditional promotion to Command Sergeant Major. He failed to fulfill the 6 years of the enlistment he signed on September 18, 2001. He failed his country. He failed his state. He failed the Minnesota Army National Guard, the battalion, his fellow soldiers. And he failed to lead by example. On top of that, he failed to serve and to uphold the 7 Army values: loyalty, duty, respect, selfless self-service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. Traitorous, fraudulent, and shameful. Signed by Thomas Behrens, Command Sergeant Major, the real kind, retired. And Paul Herr, Command Sergeant Major, thank you, gentlemen, for your amazing service. And this is, of course, the sign. Walz is a traitor. Vote for Trump. So that is a powerful letter. And they're going to come out. They're going to say, well, he's a veteran, too. He's the exact same thing as J.D. Vance was and all that stuff. And so, yeah, you can be the judge and measure their service accordingly. Now, when all this comes out, we've got some polls that are circulating right now. They're saying that Walz is going to bring back this middle America, this Rust Belt, this flyover Midwestern part of the country. But MSNBC saying, not so fast. This guy maybe hasn't done that great. Says he's got some small towns. They've lost ground already there, and it may not work out that well for him. Let's see what they're saying over there.
Now, here's the key, because this county, Democrats used to be much more competitive in. Look at this. In 2012, Barack Obama won 43% of the vote in this county. It was only a little bit more than 10 points that he lost to Romney by here. The floor fell out for Democrats here when Trump came along in that Clinton race in 2016, and they haven't recovered it since. In that Walz performance here, it's a little less than Biden's number. It's more than Clinton's, and it's a far cry from what Obama was doing here. And again, I'm showing you one. This is a stand-in for dozens of counties in Minnesota where you saw the same thing with large rural populations, blue-collar white populations, where Obama, in some of them he was winning, others he was holding his own just a dozen years ago. This is where Democrats have lost ground. And Walz in 2022, he didn't gain any ground that the Democrats had lost. He didn't do that here. He didn't do that in other counties. Walz really owes his victory, that margin he got 8 points there statewide, he owes it to the Twin Cities area here, the area where Democrats in Minnesota and all these other states are already doing well. It's sort of it's the standard Democratic victory model in a state like this. It got Walz in 2022. This is the biggest county in the state. This is where Minneapolis is. Hennepin County. Walz wins this by 44 points. Look at all the votes that came out of their total. It's huge. And again, that's right in line with what Joe Biden did in 2020 when he won Minnesota. And again, just wind the clock back here.
So what benefit do you
12 years ago, this was still a blue county, but less blue. So it's the suburban areas, the metropolitan areas that have gotten much more blue. And Walz performed just like Biden did, better than Clinton did in places like this. And then in the rest of greater Minnesota, small town Minnesota, where the Democrats have been losing ground, Walz performed basically just like Biden did as well. So, look at his electoral history. Tim Walz is in 2022. And the idea that he's got this automatic appeal with these small town areas in those 3 key battleground states, you don't see it in what he actually did on the ballot in 2022. Now,
it's all fake, okay? They're just trying to say he's a Midwestern fella. Everybody loves him, all over flyover country. Not true. The guy is just a big city liberal. The reason he won is because he won the Twin Cities, and that's all. Big city liberal, just like Kamala was in San Francisco. The people who know him, the people like the letter we just read, right? The people who serve with him in the National Guard and elsewhere recognize who he is in the rural parts of America that they forget about, and they vote accordingly. So what did he bring to the campaign at all other than somebody who is an old white guy, I guess, and a far left liberal to excite the base? When people get to know him and Kamala, it's not going to look good for him. And we'll be here continuing to cover, my friends. And so thank you so much for joining us today. And I appreciate you liking this video and subscribing while you're here. That'd be great, because I'd love to see you again on the next video, which will be here tomorrow. And so now that we've covered these 3 good segments, my friends, we've covered a bunch of stuff. We had some reaction. We had DUI updates. We had Trump's new video that got dropped. We talked about the National Guard and how they're pretty disgusted with Tim Walz. Now it's time to hear from you. Let's see what you say about this. I know there's a bunch of reaction, some amazing super chats. Thank you so much for supporting us with your super chats and memberships. I love you. Let's see who's here on the house. And you know what day it is, my friends? It's Taco Tuesday. That's right. Everybody enjoy your tacos today on this amazing Taco Tuesday. Thank you, Donut, for clipping that for us. Hey, what's up? Lenny Malley's here. Lenny says, 303 likes. Please smash the like button, please, and God bless you all. God bless you back, Lenny, and everyone else. Angel's here. What's up, Angel? Says, Kamala, and Tim just started their first campaign rally. I'm going to have to listen to at least a little bit of it after a while so I can see how horrible they did. Yeah, we'll probably have some clips on that tomorrow for the Membos Only morning stream. We'll see how bad it was. Hey, but good to see you, Angel. Hey, Peter Roden's here. 10 months as a Membo. That's Full Baby Plus One says, hello, everyone. I was wondering why I hadn't been. Wow, Peter. Is it because you want to be? You hadn't been burdened? Maybe you've been burdened. Because you've been burdened by what has been. That's why you hadn't been here today. Yeah, that's something. Sergeant GPS says, the link to the keynote speech I talked about this morning from No Balls Walz is a good idea of how I think he'd paint himself as more moderate. I put the link to the comment if anyone wants to kill 35 minutes of your time or for research purposes. Yeah, okay, so Sergeant this morning was on our members only stream. We love Sergeant GPS on Locals. And he was saying that he was actually at a speech and No Balls Walz was pretty good. Pretty decent. Kind of good charm. The speech was good, and he listened to it to observe. 35 minutes. I think he could be formidable. I don't think he's as dumb as Kamala or as Joe. I think he actually can talk, and he's been able to get some pretty terrible things done in Minnesota. So I expect we'll see more of that. What's up, Sergeant? Thanks for that one. We had this one from James Butler. Says Kamala pick Tim because they think they'll win either way, so they don't care about the votes. Jamie Raskin says they'll disqualify Trump if he wins. Yeah, we played that on yesterday's show, James. Wild clip from him. Sounds like it's a little insurrectionary. But yeah, Kamala, and I'm really liking Kamala. I think it could be Kama blah blah. Or we were also on Locals and YouTube this morning talking about comma blama, like for an Obama mashup. Kamala blama, comma blah blah, or Kamala blah blah kind of thing. Those are all pretty good. Yeah, anyways, good to see you, James. Thanks for the dono. We have this one from Paula Nick. Says the job of the media is to make it look close. They're going to steal like they did in Venezuela. CIA taught Chavez and Maduro how to do it. Yeah, I know. It's a scary thought. That's why we don't like the fact that they changed the candidate, because it makes plausibility something that's more believable. Not from our perspective, but from others. Hey, Joey Carrillo. What's up, Joey? Thanks for becoming a member on the YouTubes. We'll see you tomorrow on the members-only morning stream in the morning. Voice of the People is here. What's up, Voice? Says, okay, time to get set up for having fun tonight with all this. So Voice of the People streaming tonight. Still want to sit and talk with you sometime to joke and have fun. See y'all soon. To joke and have fun? Oh, man. I hate jokes and fun. It's the worst. But it would be good to do a stream together, Voice. We'll have to set it up. Paula Nix says, I saw Eric Coomer from Dominion with federal agents behind Antifa and BLM beside U.S. Supreme Court during the Stop the Steal rally in D.C. on 11/14/20. Well, that sounds interesting. I don't know who that is, to be honest with you. It's not ringing a bell. From Dominion. Curious. Hey, Voice of the People's in the house. What's up, Voice of the People? Bringing in 10 new membos. We love our newest of membos. What's up? Look who's coming in. Brandon R. Sean Price is here. EVN. We got Felix Abel, Cougar Tracks, Purple Lady Wenyo in the house. North Star, Star Wars Nerd. Good to see you. KD's in the house. What's up, Grant? And Daisy Girl and others chiming in. Voice of the People. Bringing in 10 new membos. Have you listened to Yuri Bezmenov's warning to the USA? I might have. I think I might have. Is he the guy who walks us through like the 4 stages of brainwashing in America? I think I've seen that. I think he's dead right about it. Hey, what's up? Words Mean Things on Local says, hey guys, get this. I just Googled, is Kamala's husband Jewish? He is, by the way. And look at the AI response that I got. Is Kamala's husband Jewish? He is married to the 49th president of the United States, Kamala Harris. Huh? From AI, as the first husband of a vice president, Irmhoff is the first second gentleman in American federal history. He's also the first Jewish spouse of an American president or vice president. What the hell kind of answer is that? What on earth kind of answer is that? That's an AI answer? What the heck? That's pretty crazy. So that's from Google? Here, let me see if I can recreate. Is Kamala's husband Jewish? Let's see what it gets. I know it's different, but let's just see what happens while we're here. The hell is going on? This might be a Wikipedia problem. Look at this. Oh, okay. No, he's married to the 49th vice president, not the president. I was reading that wrong. What did yours say? Am I just totally reading this wrong? Where did that go? Okay, so I think I know what the problem is. It's 49th vice president, right? So there's more vice presidents than there were presidents. That's why the number feels wrong. Okay, it's 49th vice president. So there were more vice presidents because some presidents have had multiple presidents. All right, I think that's the problem. Is that what I'm getting? Am I just totally off? All right. Thank you for that, Words Mean Things. That's an interesting one. Oh, hey, Tim Walz posted a selfie. Here's one. Here's one. Yes, there we go. That looks good. Great job. You look great there. It's great. Well done. Biology Always Wins says, I hate hearing that these family loved ones are accidental overdoses. You are only accidentally overdosing if you use too much crack, heroin, or pills. You are murdered when those drugs are laced with fentanyl. Yeah, I mean, that's, yeah, like an accidental yeah, that's a powerful one. Murdered. Yeah, because you're selling somebody false things. It's like if you injected poison into your cereal, right, that'd be a big problem. But you're injecting fentanyl into other drugs. I'm like, well, it's just drugs, though. Good to see you, Biology. Laura Chamberlain says, I remember when they sold millions of dollars of Trump's wall parts for pennies on the dollar. And it was just a spite thing. It was a spite, you know, It hurt all of us, but they hate all of us, so they don't care. Voice of the People says, okay, still listening. Are the, what? Yeah, that actually happened. Are the things soaked in alcohol? If so, it makes sense. I don't even know what the hell that's all about. Kevin Hopper, what's up, voice? Kevin Hopper, welcome aboard as a supporter. MAGA hat stays on locals, says the DUI arrest went viral. Says he was going 90. Yep, there it is. There's the mugshot. Good to see you, MAGA hat. We got this one from Kevin Hopper. Bringing in new membos. 5 new membos. Thank you, Kevin, for bringing these new membos in. What's up, Diane? B's coming in. Just Dia. We got Richard Tatorships in the house. We got Andrew Richardson and M. Ball gifted membos, courtesy of Kevin Hopper. A membo bringing in more membos. Thank you, Kevin Hopper. We'll see everybody tomorrow on the membos only stream. Christine is here. It's a great question. Kamala didn't pick a black woman for vice president. It's total hypocrite. You're right about this. It's one of the most racist things I've ever seen. Oh, she picked a white guy? Doesn't she know how much privilege white guys have? She picked an old white guy. Of all the people, the diversity party, they picked some white guy. All right. Unbelievable. Racist and bigotry, clearly. James Butler, what's up, James? Thanks for bringing in 10 new membos, man. That's even more you're bringing in. Maury's here. Mystique's in the house. Neurotic, welcome. Rocky, Texas Guitar Gal in the house. Trisha B, Don D, Andy F, Cindy W, and Laura and Karen O. Shouting out our friend, James Butler, bringing in 10 new membos. Thank you, James, for doing that. Hey, what's up? Matt Ostrander says the departments get the money, not the cops. But who pays the cops, though? I think it's the department, right? Hey, what's up? Angry Lieutenant says 5 membos coming in. Scooter's in the house. Valkyrie Sardo. Jim is coming in. Just Mike and JG in the house, courtesy of Angry LT. Angry Lieutenant? Good to see you, sir. Thanks for being here. Mike Bennett, what's up, Mike? Hey, Mike, membo for 3 months. Thank you, Mike, for saying this. Hey, Rob, really enjoy your discussion. Thanks. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate having this conversation with you. Thanks for being here and joining us. And I mean that. It's like a ton of fun. Hey, Sheila the Pooh, a million hugs to you. Sheila P is bringing in new membos. Thank you, Sheila, for doing this. Look who's coming in. Animal Farm, The Lady Kara, M. Miller, Nikki G, what's up? Joe Hoskins, welcome. CGI Joe, thumbing up, Sheila. ID Unknown, don't know who you are. Judy Oliveira, Raymond Fee, F. Fijma, and Carolyn M. and Tyrannius Cygnus, gifted membos, courtesy of Sheila Pooh. A million hugs to you. Thank you, Sheila. Hey, Victoria Greenfield says, member for 1 month. Hey, Rob, glad to be here. In the 90s, we had MAD in Nebraska. Yeah, I think, I don't remember when they were founded, but I think that they've grown in power over the last couple decades dramatically in terms of funding and energy. So I'm sure they existed. I don't know how solid they were as an organization, but they're very powerful now. Hey, NY says, Rob, honestly, he had a DUI. I really doubt it's going to affect anyone voting for the ticket. Well, that's what you say, NY. He's a convicted criminal, as far as I can tell. So I don't know. He should be disqualified immediately because that's what they said was the rule for our side. One old guy's opinions says Turd Harris and Turd Walz 2024. Yeah, stinky ticket, no doubt. One old guy's. Hey, Kevin Hopper, 13 months as a membo. That is 1 year plus some. Says, can you give a shout out to Tommy Robinson in the UK? Heck yeah, shout out to Tommy Robinson in the UK. What's up, Tommy? Hope you're having a great day. Thanks for being friends with Kevin Hopper. Hey, what's up, Kevin? Thanks for that. One old guy's opinion says Turd Walz frocked CSM from one old guy's opinions. Says Dorothy Gale Harris, Tin Man Biden 2020. Now Dorothy Gale Harris, Cowardly Lion, No Balls Walz. Wow. That's a lot. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Cowardly Lion, No Balls Walz. But lion maybe should be like L-Y. I get it. Like lion like in the Wizard of Oz. But maybe like L-Y-O-N or something, you know. Hey, Wussy No Balls Walz is another one from one old guy's opinions. This one is in Google Translate. Select Finnish to English. Type in Kamala. Do that on your own time. Yeah, I don't know what that's going to do on your own time. Let's see. In Google Translate. Kamala Translate. Let's see what this does. How come Google's not giving me this? Let's see. So we're going to say Kamala, select Finnish to English. Oh, here it is. That's fun. Okay, it's not bad. It's horrible or terrible. Here's what it looks like. Kamala's horrible or terrible. So there you go. All right. Boom. There we go. There you go. That's the truth. Oh, hey, you did it for us. Donut Mind Me did it for us. Thank you, Donut. Gosh, you're so amazing. I thought it was going to be something like a Fanny, you know, like Fanny. Like Fanny in the UK is very different from Fanny in the US. I thought it was going to be like little Fanny something. Hey, Steph D, what's up? Says, my father was a CSM and retired in 92 after 27 years of service, including 3 tours in Vietnam. When 9/11 happened, he was ready to go back. Walz is crap. Yeah, and thank you to your father, man. What a career of service. Holy moly. 3 tours in Vietnam, wild. Different, built differently. Thanks for that, Steph D. Shout out to your father and your family. Hey, what's up, Libby T? Thanks for becoming a supporter over on the YouTubes. Great to have you. We'll see you in the morning. John McGarvey says, I support Ball's decision to quit. After watching him lead his state, I realized that decision probably saved soldiers' lives. Incompetent leadership in an active firefight can be devastating. It's a great point, John. That's such an astute observation. He's like, hey, I'm resigning so you don't get killed. You're welcome. He's like, are you kidding me? I can't lead you in Iraq. We're all going to die. I'm going to be dead in 2 minutes if I'm in charge. I got to go. I got to get out of here. And then he races out of there. He's like, whew, man. Thank God. Yeah, you're right, John. Good call. Hey, Sheila Poo, 1,000,000 hugs to you. Thanks for bringing in 10 more members, Sheila. Amazing. LTC Vet is here. Brother D's coming in. Another yarn. Poem Paget, welcome. Frank W, not too crazy. A little bit's okay. What's up? AB's in the house. James Fitch and Marjorie Smith, gifted membos. Jennifer CGI Joe shouting them out. Sheila P gifted some membos. Great to have you in the house. Thank you, Sheila. The RP Games, 11 months, almost a full year. Woo, gonna have an anniversary. Says, vote Trump because our future is that important, no doubt. George Hawkins over on the YouTube says, it appears that Kamala and the tampon Tim form the perfect Peter principle, rising to the level of respective incompetence. Yeah, it's like, it's just lowest common denominator. It's like dumbing down the average mean and just keeps plummeting incompetence. At least in traditional American competence. Like these are lefty communists, clearly, and they want to deviate the country that direction. So that's why it feels like incompetence, because they lock people down, they chop their genitals off, and all sorts of weird stuff. Elf, what's up? Another great show, Robert. Thank you, ELF. Yeah, today was pretty fun. We got to do a little deep dive. We got to do a little topical stuff, kind of poke around. I thought it was a good one. Thank you, ELF, for joining us. And Peng, what's up? No Honk 2024. 14 months as a membo. Remember, the honking will continue until freedom improves? Epic. White Buffalo, 3 months as a membo, 1/3 of the way to a baby, says, if I remember correctly, Canada looks at DUIs as a felony. I don't know if they consider it a felony, but they have a big problem with DUIs. A big problem. If you get a DUI in the United States, it's hard to get into Canada with a DUI. In fact, there's a specific Canada lawyer I know whose entire practice is just getting people into the country with DUIs. She has a whole business around it. It's wild. One old guy's opinions says Kamala did not pick a non-binary black they them hypocrite. No, she picked a white guy, which is racist of her. I can't believe she did it. Hey, rub some dirt on it. Says, Rob, try this one on. From Animal House, Otis Day and the Knights sing Kamalama Ding Dong. Kamalama Ding Dong. Well, I don't know about that one either. Yeah, Kamalama Ding Dong. Is that where this is going? Hey, this is Tommy Robinson, better known as Tommy Robinson, a British anti-Islam campaigner. Oh, is that who I was shouting out? Are you friends with Tommy Robinson? Is that why you wanted to give him a shout out? Is he in trouble? Does he need our help? I don't know. Jennifer, what's up? Please shout out Mr. Rick Hott, the chat's troll. We have our troll, Mr. Rick Hott. You're the designated troll of the day or like forever. The chat's troll. Thank you, Jennifer, for shouting him out. He's in trouble? I don't know much about him. I have not been following what's going on in England, to be perfectly honest with you. But it's like there's riots all over the place. I mean, I see it come across my newsfeed, but there's been so much news here that I haven't taken a deep dive into it. Is it more of the same stuff that's going on all over the place? They brought in a bunch of people who are not English. They're having problems, kind of like what's happening in the United States, where we're bringing in a bunch of people who are not American, and we're going to have a lot of problems. What's happening in England, we should be paying more attention to it because it's like a canary in the coal mine. And it's just, it's happening everywhere. Yeah, it's a big problem. Hey, Eddie Block Films is here. Can you please subscribe to my locals, Eddie Block Films? I need 20 more people to stream over 30 minutes, and paid sub free month code is free month AUG. Absolutely, Eddie. I'll come over and be a paid subscriber, brother. I'm happy to pay for your content, man. I'm looking forward to supporting you. Eddie Block Films on locals at Eddie Block Films. Free month AUG. Free month August. Got it. So my friends, if you're already on our locals, just go check it out. Get a free month over there. Check it out. Eddie Block Films in the house. And if you're going to sign up for Eddie Block Films, do it on the internet. Don't download the app and do it. Do it from the internet. Because if you sign up on the app, Google takes its 30%. Apple takes their 30%. It's brutal. So sign up for locals on the web if you can. For Eddie in particular. Eddie, great to see you, my man. And I'm looking forward to seeing some of your content. It's going to be fun. And looking forward to joining you over there. All right, so let's check in with our friends on X. We'll wrap it up for the day. Go over to our members only after party on our own locals. Ooh, right next door to Eddie's locals. And let's see who's joining us on X before we call it. We had some good comments over here. What's up? Hey, what's up, Jim? Says, thanks for the update. I knew nothing about Walz. Never heard of him before. Definitely got to do some digging on him. Yeah, it's been interesting. I mean, it's been one day. It's been less than one day. It's been like 12 hours. And the opposition research has already just been overflowing. So what's it going to be like after a week has percolated? Hey, what's up? This one came in from James Pepper. You see this? They put Joe Biden on Mount Rushmore. There he is. They're like, hey, Joe, just stand here while we carve you into the head and put him in backwards, you know. Hey, what's up, Joy Flick? They can't botch anything because they know it's in the bag. It says the great steal of 2024 is already in full swing. They're going to certainly try, Joy, but we're going to do our very best not to let them do it. Hey, Constitutionally is here. Finally, someone is covering his disgraceful acts. We're happy to do it, Constitutionally. Great to see you. Glocky's over here sharing this one. Did you guys see this one? They're going to start a new film together. Dumb and Dumber. Tim Walz and Kamala Harris. Liberals. Oh, gosh. We have some other really strange ones on here on our X. Glocky's dropping some very curious ones. Here's one. Yeah, here's a nice one. I helped bail them out. I allowed it. Let's see. Why doesn't... Yeah, lots of good stuff from Glocky. But Torn is over there. A hard of hearing Waltz going 95 and a 55. Was he, what, trying to catch up to the conversation? Boom! That's from Batorn. Boom! Trying to catch up to the sound waves? Funny. Hey, so I'm going to try to fix my internet. I don't know what the heck's going on with my internet. I know it's very bad today. And I'm going to work on that tomorrow. I switched to a whole separate internet provider, and I think it got worse today. So we're going to switch back. But anyways, it's going to be a lot of fun when we figure out our internet because, you know, we're live streaming. So kind of need that. But we're working on it. Thanks for suffering through some of the graininess with us together here as we figure it out. It's wild. I was walking around outside on our building and all of the boxes are opened. Okay, like all of the cable boxes on every building. I don't know if somebody's going in there and messing with it or whatever, but it's like crazy. I can't figure out what's going on with the internet. It's nuts. But even my new internet provider's not working today, so it's terrible. Anyways, we're going to figure it out, my friends. Now, we are done here on the day. We are going over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Come and join us for our members only after party. We are going to hang out and have some fun. I want to say what's up to our amazing mods and our meme smiths here who help keep things oh so beautiful and orderly. We got K Beans in the house. Hey, this one came in from Johnny Carrillo. It says, okay, here's this one. Please read my previous. It wouldn't let me copy and paste into this. And so Donut is just amazing. He clipped this for us. So Johnny over on YouTube posted, in 2004, before getting sent to the sandbox, I was on a convo training mission, and this guy sitting beside me from a different unit was mad as hell because his retirement was denied due to stop loss. So which guy? Were you sitting next to Walz or just some random guy? Well, I could understand being mad if your retirement's denied. I'm not sure I know what a stop loss is or why that would impact his retirement, but I think there's more to this story. And I feel like I'm just a little bit unsure of what you're mentioning there, Joey, but thank you for the nice dono. And thanks for serving our country overseas. No, stop loss is for lower ranks. Okay, so maybe that's why I don't know what that is. Stop loss means the military won't let you leave when scheduled. Okay, it's an involuntary extension. Grant says it's an involuntary extension of a service member's active duty service until the enlistment contract. Lower ranks have to stay. Higher ranks get to pop, smoke, and leave. Wild. Okay. He's saying Tampon Tim could retire to escape, but others had to wait. Got it. Okay. So let's read that in context. In 2004, before getting sent to the sandbox, I was on a convo training mission, and this guy sitting beside me from a different unit was mad as hell. My retirement was denied. I can't retire because of stop loss. So he can't leave. Okay, so Tim has the nice little option to just say, you know, I'm going to retire. As soon as it's actually hard work and I actually have to go and lead my unit, then I'll just retire. Thanks for explaining that. And K Bean says it means even if your agreement expires, the military can keep you. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, interesting. You can't retire, get out of the military, someone says. Yeah, interesting. Okay. Very curious. Well, we're going to learn a lot more about that. Tim Walz is going to educate us on what that means to leave the military when you're abandoning your fellow service members. And so we'll learn a lot more about that. And we're excited to continue to get into this with you, my friends. And so, hey, Corin over on Rumble says, you really need to get up to speed on Tommy Robinson. Follow him on Telegram. Oops, except Apple banned him from their phones. He's a great freedom fighter and one of the best breaking news sources. It absolutely sounds like I need to. Yeah, thanks for bringing him to my attention and educating me about what he's working on. We usually stick to domestic stuff here. You know, we're just so immersed in domestic stuff that I'm not really familiar with his work. But it sounds like he's got a lot of supporters here. So it sounds like he's on the right path of something there. So, all right, my friends, we will carry on this conversation tomorrow. We are going back over to locals for our members only after party. We're going to hang out over there, debrief for a little bit, and say what's up to our friends on locals. So come and join us, watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Links in the description below. We also want to say what's up to our mods. I see K Beans in the house. Donut Mind Me is clipping for us, playing hookies in the house. I know John McGarvey was clipping for us on the day. We had Carrie B this morning, modding the fort down for us. And we're very grateful to everybody who keeps this train on the tracks in all of the chats and supporting our community. And so we'll leave it there. Now, the plan is tomorrow, we're going to be back here to see what else the day has in store for us. And in order to do that, we're going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.